House will come back to order. House will come back to order. Mr. Clerk, would you ring the bell and let them know that it is 4 minutes past the time to reconvene. Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions. The clerk will read.
Recognizing and commending ICNA relief. Recognizing and commending Lauren Piper upon being honored with the Girl Scout Gold Award. Recognizing and commending Deborah Shaw on the grand occasion of her retirement. Honoring the life and memory of James Edgar Coleman. Recognizing and commending Camille Ryan upon being honored with the Girl Scout Gold Award. Recognizing and commending Katie Reynolds upon being honored with the Girl Scout Gold Award. Recognizing and commending David Ball upon being named the Rotary Club Citizen of the Year. Recognizing and congratulating Carson Clearly Howgate. Recognizing March 2nd, 2016 is Georgia Music Day at the State Capitol. Recognizing Cedar Grove United Methodist Church on the grand occasion of its 188th anniversary. Commending Eugene Harmon for his 43 years of service to Delta Airlines. Recognizing the Deerfield-Windsor School Knights on winning the 2015 Dr. Michael Drake Athletic Excellence Award and commending their longtime athletic director, Gordy Gruhl, for his outstanding leadership. Honoring the life and memory of Sheriff Van Peavy. Recognizing and commending Lieutenant John W. Ivey on the occasion of his retirement. Honoring and commending Lieutenant Colonel Joel Davis, Jr. Honoring the first grade classes of Elm Street Elementary School for their successful class project, Sugar Kids Beauty. Commending the Gathering Place and recognizing the week of February 29th through March 4th as the week of the Gathering Place. Recognizing and commending Edith P. Edie Young. Recognizing and commending Miss Darlene Beal Norris. And for other purposes, that completes the reading of the privileged resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privileged resolutions? Chair hears none. The resolutions are adopted. We are about to go on to the rules calendar. Those of you who want to vote on legislation will need to gather in. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 856. House Bill 856.
House Bill 856 by Representative Fleming of the 121st and others to be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 9 of Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions for probate courts, so as to change provisions relating to the bond requirement for probate court judges. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Judiciary. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Fleming to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 856 is a bill dealing with our probate courts, who, as you know, they were here in mass earlier, and we had lunch with the varsity for them. We appreciate that. But it's a brief bill that does one thing. Right now, probate judges around the state of Georgia are required to have a bond. And what that means, if there's any misappropriation of funds in their office, and they do handle quite a lot with wills and so forth, then this bond covers any of our citizens who lose their money. It has not been changed in about 30 years. The bond is currently $25,000. This bill will raise that bond to $100,000. This bill came at the request of the probate judges. As you might imagine, with inflation and time passing, the amount it was 30 years ago is not anything like it should be today, and this brings it more in line where the amount of the bond should be. Mr. Speaker, that's simply what the bill does. I would be happy to answer any questions any members had.
Do you yield for questions?
Absolutely.
You have one. Chair recognizes Chairman Benton to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman yield.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I do.
Is it not true that you didn't realize you were going to be on the calendar today when you put those pants on?
You know, I thought about it, Mr. Chairman. I realized it, and I said, go Dogs.
Representative Chairman Benton would have no problem if those pants were another color
An ugly yellow and
and
black.
had
I bet he'd like
insects
it.
on them.
That's right. That's right, Mr. Speaker.
You have no further questions.
Thank you. I ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 856.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 856 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 856. The ayes are 152, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 944. House Bill 944.
House Bill 944 by Representative Gilligan of the 24th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to health, so as to provide for the pronouncement of death of patients in nursing homes who are organ donors by a physician assistant or registered professional nurse. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Gilligan to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members of the House. I do present to you House Bill 944. This particular bill would allow nurses, especially the registered nurses who can currently pronounce death in hospice and in nursing homes, to do so even if the patient was an organ donor. This bill also would give the authority to physician assistants and to nurse practitioners to do the same, to be able to pronounce death in the event that the patient was an organ donor. This change, if it was approved, would streamline the process, and if there was any medically suitable organ at that time, they would be able to begin the procedure, and, well, not the procedure, but the process. And if there is no medically suitable organ, it would allow that medical professional to render aid to the grieving family. And with that, sir, I do yield for any questions.
Do you yield for questions?
Yes, sir, I do. I think two should do.
Have you been through orientation?
Well, I was just thinking it's such a simple bill, and this body is so incredibly intelligent that we would not want to insult the intelligence by adding too many questions. But I will yield to questions, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Tom Taylor to your right for a question.
Gentlelady yield.
I will.
Thank you. As a fellow retired intelligence professional, not germane to this bill, but on Gilligan's Island, named after you, why could they make a radio out of a coconut but not get off the island?
Because the professor had no idea what he was really doing. They could keep the batteries going, but they couldn't get off that island.
Thank you. And Lady yield for one more question.
Sure.
Captain Wilkinson beside me here, if we were stuck on the island, would he have to call me little buddy?
Well, he would be captain, and I don't know if you would be little buddy or if I would with the name of Gilligan. Perhaps you could be the professor.
Thank you. Good bill.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Thomas to your left for a question.
Does the lady yield?
Yes, I do.
Is it not true that as I was walking into the chamber, somebody tagged me and said something about this bill? So is it not true that I'm trying to understand what was the procedure beforehand and why specifically did we need to change it?
Right now, they can pronounce death if the person is not an organ donor, but if they are not allowed to. And what happens then, they have to wait until a medical professional, a physician, or they have to call 911 and ask for a non-emergency staff to come in, and it just causes a delay that's unnecessary.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And with that, sir, I could yield the well.
You have no further questions. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 944 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 153, the ayes are in the passage of House Bill 944, the ayes are 153, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 93.
House Bill 93 by Representative Peasold of the 133rd and others, being titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 1 of Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to the general provisions for the identification and regulation of motor vehicles so as to prevent law enforcement from retaining license plate data obtained from automated license plate recognition systems for certain periods. This bill having referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Peasold to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. Today I bring to you House Bill 93, whose primary function is to address data collected using what are called automated license plate reading systems. Now, 3 years ago, I didn't know what an ALPR was, but started working on this bill, and the Harris County Sheriff's Department called me and asked me if I would like to see a demonstration of this technology in use. So naturally, I drove down there on a Friday afternoon, and it's fascinating. You can be in a police cruiser or a sheriff's vehicle, and every time a vehicle passes on either side of the road, it's snapping hundreds of photos every minute. So you hear this audible ping every time it collects that plate information. And immediately it cross-checks the plate in question with GCIC, which is the Georgia Criminal Information Center. And if there is a hit, it flags up, there's an audible siren in the vehicle. So if there's lapsed insurance, if your registration has lapsed, or if there is an outstanding warrant for the arrest of the driver of that vehicle or the owner of the vehicle, it prompts the officer to perform a routine traffic stop. And as you can imagine, this is a fantastic tool for law enforcement because what it means is the officer can be protecting and serving and not have to worry about manually inputting every single license plate that it comes into contact with. Under current law, however, there is no limit to how long this data can be kept. So Gwinnett County, for example, collects 500,000 of these records every single week with no current purge policy. So that means anyone in this chamber or any Georgian has their whereabouts or their vehicle's whereabouts on record in perpetuity. So this law does a couple things. It states that after 1 year, unless your record is the subject of a criminal investigation, that data must be purged. Point number 2, it also exempts these records from open records requests. It is quite conceivable that anyone in Georgia can file an open records request on any member of this body or any other Georgian and ascertain your whereabouts, your driving habits, where you go, when you go there, which obviously presents quite a problem, especially keeping in mind that the overwhelming majority of violent crimes committed in this state and across the country are committed by people who know their victim. So all they would need to know is their intended victim's license plate number, and they can find their moving habits. A couple of, just for reference, Arkansas limits this data to 150 days, California 60 days, North Carolina 90 days, and Maine 21 days. Now we've set it at 1 year. New Hampshire has banned the use of license plate readers altogether, but that's certainly not as far. We don't want to go that far in this state. Mr. Speaker, that is the crux of the bill. I will happily yield for any questions.
You have a number of questions. Do you yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Chairman Willard, to your right for a question.
Thank you. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Mr. Pizzold, I've been trying to sit here and recall how many times I've had bills come up in this body and not receive support for what I thought were good bills by you.
Yes, sir.
Have there been a lot of them?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Does the term quid pro quo, a Latin term, have any meaning for you?
Sounds like lawyer talk to me.
It does sound like lawyer talk. I did take 2 years of Latin in high school. This for that, am I on the right track?
Pretty much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you, sir.
After that, do you want to yield further?
I will yield for one more, sir.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Special Rules Committee, Chairman Jaspers, to your right for a question.
Do you yield?
I will gladly yield for you, sir.
It's your first bill, is it not?
This is actually my second bill.
We have forgotten.
Well, if you feel like hazing me, feel free.
It's not.
Fire away.
What I'd like to say, is it not true that you work with many groups in perfecting this bill that will help protect the data of Georgians?
Yes, sir, and thank you for your help in getting this bill through the process. We had some great conversations with the Sheriff's Association and the police and GBI, and we came to what I feel is a great compromise. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. There is an amendment. The clerk will read the amendment.
Representative Powell, the 32nd, offers the following amendment, AM 410148. It is printed and in your books.
Is there any objection to adopting the amendment AM 410148? Is there objection? Chair hears none. The amendment is adopted. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute as amended? The chair hears none. The committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 93 will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 152. The ayes are 93. The ayes are 152. The nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. I hope you'll help me welcome to the floor of the House a former member of this body, now a distinguished jurist, Judge Mike Jacobs from the DeKalb County State Court. Judge Jacobs. It's actually Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 792. House Bill 792.
House Bill 792 by Representative Brockway of the 102nd. Be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 4, Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to carrying and possession of firearms so as to authorize the carrying, possession, and use of electroshock weapons by persons who are students who are employed at a public institution of post-secondary education. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. The committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Brockway to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I thank you for your time today. Bring before you House Bill 792. This is a straightforward bill that would allow people on public college campuses to keep in their possession a stun gun, or what we're calling in the bill an electroshock weapon. Over the summer, I spoke to many groups of college students, as I'm sure many of you did, and several of those groups were college Republicans, and as you might imagine, the topic of firearms on campus came up. Thankfully, the House passed that measure yesterday. But during my discussions, some students gave me the information that they thought that they were not allowed to carry even pepper spray on campuses, and I thought that was rather strange. So I did some research, and I found that students were misinformed. So I went back and informed them that they are allowed on every college campus in the state of Georgia to carry pepper spray. However, during my research, I found that many public colleges in Georgia strictly prohibit the use of stun guns or tasers on campus for personal protection. So consequently, I brought this bill before you today. I think the bill makes it clear on line 19 that these electroshock weapons are to be used in self-defense for one's own person or someone else who needs defending. Current law, I believe, deals with situations where these devices may be misused. That's dealt with in other parts of the law. So I don't think that that really is a problem. You know, the right of self-defense is a right that's older than our Constitution and older than our Second Amendment, the Second Amendment that we debated so vigorously yesterday. In fact, many ancient writers and thinkers consider the right of self-defense to be a natural right, or a right belonging to us whether a government exists to protect it or not. Cicero said it well when he said, "There exists a law, not written down anywhere, but inborn in our hearts, a law which comes to us not by training or custom or reading, but by derivation, the absorption and adoption from nature itself. A law which has come to us not by theory, but from practice, not by instruction, but by natural intuition. I refer to the law which lays down that if our lives are endangered by plots or violence or armed robbers or enemies, any and every method of protecting oneself is morally right." And HB 792 recognizes this natural right that our students, faculty, and others on college campuses have to defend themselves from those who seek to do them harm. As I see it, providing those on college campuses the ability to carry an electroshock weapon is another option we can provide people to protect themselves. As Cicero said, people have that natural right to use any and every method to protect themselves. I urge you today to vote in favor of House Bill 792 and provide people on our public college campuses another option in protecting themselves. Mr. Speaker, I'll be happy to answer any questions on that. I know we have a lot of work left to do today, but I'll be happy to take a few questions, sir.
You have a number of questions if you care to yield.
Yes, sir. I'll yield for a few. Thank you, sir.
Chair recognizes the Minority Leader of the House, Leader Abrams, to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Brockway, is there an age limit on who may be allowed to carry these weapons?
No, there's not in the bill, and in my research of the law, there's none that exists in Georgia code. So you can agree or disagree with my decision, but I decided not to include an age limit in this bill at this time.
Will you yield further?
Yes, ma'am.
So is it not true then that any student who is dual enrolled in high school and college, meaning someone as young as 13 or 14, will now be allowed to carry a stun gun onto a college campus?
Yes, ma'am, that would be an accurate I think those cases are extremely rare. I have a daughter who's about to do dual enrollment. She'll be a senior, so she'll be 17. But yeah, there not being an age limit would, in those extremely rare cases where somebody's under the age of 18 on a college campus, it would apply to them. Yes, ma'am.
One final question.
Sure.
Is there a voltage requirement or a voltage limit on these stun gun weapons?
There's not. It does specify that we're talking about devices that are commercially available. I think that the vast majority of these devices that are commercially available are meant merely to stun someone long enough so that the victim can get away. So there are dozens and dozens of different types of these devices out on the market today. I didn't want to create a 50-page bill where we're describing each and every one of these devices, but just trying to keep it simple. So
thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield for a couple more if time allows, sir.
Do you yield further?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Taylor to your right for a question.
Gentleman, yield.
Yes, sir.
Representative Brockway, is it not true that this offers an intermediate, what I'll call non-lethal force option to have someone, escape an attack and get away?
Yes, that's the whole purpose, and that's why we clearly say on 919 these are to be used in self-defense. Okay, these are non-lethal weapons. They're not going to. They're meant to be used in a situation of a close proximity attack where the victim can zap somebody and get out of there. So that's the purpose of these devices. So yes, sir. Thank you for your question.
Yield for another question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just one more. One, if somebody's of small stature or, say, handicapped or something like that, this offers them a little bit of standoff where you're not, in a ground fight or, locked up with somebody. Gives them a little bit of standoff and time to get away.
Yes, sir. I believe it does. I would agree with that assessment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You have further questions if you care to yield.
Mr. Speaker, I know we have a lot of bills left today, so I'll take one more question if that's okay.
Chair recognizes the Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Hughley, to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
In presenting this bill, did you all discuss misuse and pranks? Because with the age limit being unlimited, there are children who actually grow up on college campuses. We've heard that, as a matter of fact, yesterday. So did you all consider any of that?
Yes, ma'am. The pushback I get is, as Ms. Abrams said, the age limit, and I'm certainly willing at a later date. It's too late now because we're here debating this on the floor, but that's an issue that's been raised a number of times. As for college pranks and so forth, my answer to that is this, that these devices have been on the market for a long time. We don't see, to my knowledge and my looking of coverage of these devices, a rash of misuse of these devices off college campuses. People have parties all the time and do dumb things at those parties. But we don't really see, to my knowledge, a lot of misuse of these devices. I think they are, it kind of gets down to this. I trust that college students will be able to protect themselves and will be able to use these devices wisely. A person who's going to purchase a device like this is someone who's concerned about their personal safety. They're going to take steps necessary to protect, to use it wisely and not be involved in situations where harm might occur. But to add on to that, this is a non-lethal device. Even if the rare occurrence happens where a device is misused, first of all, you have other things in the law to deal with that. If somebody is zapping somebody just for fun, there are other laws that deal with that. I think you could classify that as assault if somebody's really being egregious with that. But again, being a non-lethal weapon, I think I trust college students to act wisely.
This gentleman further yield.
Yes, ma'am.
So if we're going to arm our college students, why do they need this?
Well, it comes down to this. There are a number of different ways you can choose to protect yourself. Pepper spray, as I mentioned before, is already allowed on college campuses. Pepper spray is also a defensive device. Pepper spray is also a non-lethal device like stun gun. I describe these more if you're looking on the spectrum of things of personal protection devices, it's a lot more like pepper spray and mace than it is like a weapon, because the instances of people dying by this are almost non-existent outside of law enforcement uses. Now, this is just another option that we can provide people on a college campus. I support campus carry. We voted for that yesterday. But not everybody, even if campus carry becomes legal, not everyone is going to want to carry a gun on a college campus. So this provides another option for people to choose from.
One further question, if the gentleman will yield.
Absolutely.
Will the college campuses have any way of knowing how many of these devices are there on their college campus, and how are we holding our students accountable or responsible to make sure that these devices are not, left in classrooms or
right,
where they could be misused by others?
Well, I think the way I'd answer that, and I appreciate the questions, I don't know that there'd be any way we could really track how many students carry these. So I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for you on that. There's no mechanism in this, and I don't really think we should place that kind of burden on a college to try to figure that out. As for students leaving these laying around, they're not cheap. These devices cost money, and I remember when I was in college, I hardly had any money. So if I had taken some of my hard-earned money to purchase one of these to protect myself, I'm gonna keep track of it. So I don't really think that's going to be a problem.
Thank you. Just like they keep up with their cell phones, right?
Well, their parents probably pay for their cell phones. All right, Mr. Speaker, I know we're very busy today, and I appreciate everyone's time. I ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 790.
You only have about 6 more questions.
6 more? I think the will of the...
But as you said, we are busy.
Yes, sir. I think at this time, I will yield the well, sir, and I ask for people's favorable consideration of House Bill 792.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee to speak to the bill.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to get near as lengthy today as I was yesterday. And I want to thank Mr. Brockaway for bringing this bill forward to answer some of the questions of some of the folks that have concerns. Let me remind you that these are not and I stand accused of calling this a Second Amendment light, but that's not what this is. These are not registered devices. These are defensive type devices. For the best known, I don't know of any deaths that's been created by these in recent history. These things can be purchased in arms stores. They can be purchased in, quite frankly, you can purchase some of these devices in hardware stores because they're strictly defensive. It's basically to protect somebody and with a non-lethal dose of whatever it is. I would encourage the members of this body to step forward to vote for this. At the end of the day, this isn't just about, this isn't a Second Amendment issue, but it's just about personal protection. And I would encourage you to vote for this, because if we don't, then I guess the next thing might be to ban walking canes and sharp-pointed umbrellas. But it's a good bill. It's been perfected by the Public Safety Committee, and I encourage your support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 792 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 792. The ayes are 117, the nays are 46. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 851. House Bill 851.
House Bill 851 by Representative Atwood of the 179th. Be titled an act to amend Chapter 15 to Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to county law libraries so as to require an annual audit of the financial affairs, books, and records of boards of trustees of the county law library. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Atwood to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 851. It's a very simple bill. It was brought to me by a local attorney down in my district. It requires an annual audit of the financial affairs, books, and records of the boards of trustees of county law libraries. Right now, we assess fees on various pleadings, and it's managed by a trust committee. It's separate and distinct from the county, and those funds are piling up. In my county alone last year, we had about $250,000 because most of the law libraries have gone from standalone books, not all, but many in the counties, to provide legal research for citizens to an electronic means, which is cheaper. I believe that those should be accounted for, and so what we've tried to do is be as flexible as we could. We allow the county accountant to audit, the internal auditor to audit if they indeed are CPAs, or the Law Library Trust Committee can hire an outside CPA and report it to the public as to what these funds are being used for, because under current law, the funds must be used for very, very specific things related to the court. This has the support of the ACCG and also the Council of Superior Court Clerks. That's essentially what it does. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'll stand for questions if there are any.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 851 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 851. The ayes are 161, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 827.
House Bill 827 by Representative Holcomb of the 81st and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the general provisions for law enforcement officers and agencies so as to provide requirements for submitting certain evidence collected from a forensic medical examination to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Holcomb to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, it is my honor to present to you House Bill 827 today, the Pursuing Justice for Rape Victims Act. We have had across our country and here in this state a national epidemic of rape kits not being tested in a timely manner. Here in Georgia, just last summer, 1,500 kits were found on hospital shelves here in Atlanta. Many of them had been there for years. And we know that they are also on shelves around our state today with nothing happening for these victims. The purpose of this bill is to ensure the timely processing of rape kits to make sure that that does not happen again. And it does two things. First, from this date forward, it will ensure the timely processing of all rape kits that are taken. It requires hospitals and treatment centers to notify law enforcement to then pick them up within 96 hours, and then the kits to be transferred to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation within 30 days. It also addresses all of those that may be on shelves right now, and it requires that all of those be inventoried, audited, and forwarded to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation for testing. This bill is the product of a lot of hard work and has the support of law enforcement, the prosecutors, sheriffs, chiefs of police, district attorneys are all supportive, and of course the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, who accepts the responsibility to take on this new role, which they believe is very important and will help remove perpetrators from the streets. It also has the support of victims' rights advocates who worked very closely on the drafting of this language and were very supportive of this bill. And it has the support of care providers and health care facilities. Before I close, I also want to especially thank Leader Abrams. We've been working on this together for last year. It's been wonderful to partner on this with you, and I thank you very much for your help and guidance in bringing this bill forward. Mr. Speaker, I would be happy to yield for questions if there are any.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 827 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 827. The ayes are 160, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 768. House Bill 768.
House Bill 768 by Representative Hawkins, the 27th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Title 30 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to disabled persons so as to provide for the establishment of a qualified ABLE program in this state to enable the contribution of funds to tax-exempt accounts to pay for the qualified expenses of eligible individuals with disabilities. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, the committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Hawkins to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before you, you have HB 768, the ABLE account bill, a better living experience. The intent of this legislation is to establish a qualified ABLE account in the state of Georgia, and the purpose of this legislation is to provide for the disabled the qualified expenses for housing, transportation, and health. ABLE is a version, this ABLE account is a version of Georgia's long-standing 529 accounts we have now for education. But ABLE accounts were available for individuals with serious disabilities with onset before the age of 26. These accounts allow disabled individuals to save private money without the asset limit of $2,000, which triggers the loss of disability assistance. These accounts may not exceed the limit of $235,000 now established in the 529 Georgia accounts. The annual contributions are capped at $14,000, and this amount is a total of individual, families, and friends. Individuals may only have one account, and the withdrawals are non-taxable if they are qualified. If they're non-qualified dispersions, then they will be taxed at the regular tax rate with a 10% penalty. The ABLE program will be administered by the Georgia ABLE Program Corporation, assigned to the Department of Administration for Administrative Services only. The members of the board are commissioners of community health, developmental disabilities, 3 directors appointed by the governor, the state treasurer, and the state auditor. The treasurer will be authorized to carry out the powers for efficient and effective administration. The corporation may enter into agreements with other states, with a consortium of states, or help an individual assign themselves to an ABLE account in another state. Any account costs will be assigned and covered by the account holders. There will not be a cost to the state. Let's keep in mind that these families have gone through quite a bit, and they have spent most of their life savings taking care of this young member and their family. This will allow these young folks to go out and live independently, get a job and live independently. And I think everyone that's ever been around a disabled person will realize that this is one of the greatest things that we can do for these folks. In conclusion, I would like to thank a lot of people because this bill has traveled a long journey. I want to thank Representative Scott Turner, who has worked on this bill from the very beginning, and Representative Wendell Willard for also helping in this bill, Representative Bruce Williamson, and Representative Jay Powell. They've added much to the success of this bill and the ability of this bill to work its way through the process. I will tell you, 35 states have passed legislation, but no state has an operating ABLE account. Georgia has the opportunity to be the first state in the nation to have an operating ABLE account. I will ask for your support and your vote. Thank you very much. If there are no questions, I will yield the well.
Do you yield for questions?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Stovall to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not true that this bill will be very beneficial for my son who is disabled?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I
Yep.
appreciate all your work and Representative Turner's work as well.
Thank you very much.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Thomas to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not true this is an ABLE legislation that will impact people throughout the state of Georgia?
Yes, ma'am. Able, Mabel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
You have no further questions.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Bentley to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. The Georgia ABLE Act, individuals with disabilities face significant barriers to finding and holding employment and living independently because their access to critical safety programs can be lost once they establish even a minimum level of savings. The ABLE Act will help more individuals with disabilities to work, save, and live as independently as possible. And you all know that I represent very small communities in the state of Georgia, and access is always a problem in my area of the state. So I ask that you please join me and others in supporting House Bill 768 for our disabled Georgians across the state of Georgia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, colleagues.
Chair recognizes Representative Turner to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to start by thanking Representative Hawkins for carrying the Georgia ABLE Act and for the good work of the Ways and Means Committee, Subcommittee Chairman Williamson, Chairman Powell. I genuinely appreciate your efforts. The face of liberty takes many forms, and many of our liberties are taken for granted. Every day we wake up in a nation, a state, a community filled with opportunity. I believe that opportunity is the foundation for the American dream. That each of us has the opportunity presented to us every day to improve and to get better. There are some in our state, in our community, that will face challenges that the rest of us will never understand. Challenges the rest of us can only imagine. Mr. Cranfield, would you help me introduce Chad Roberts? This is Chad. He's one of the faces of liberty that's going to be helped by this legislation. I met Chad, and you can see he works in a greenhouse up in Cherokee County. Those are basil plants. Every single one of those plants was planted by Chad. Chad is a 23-year-old, nonverbal, autistic man who lives at home with his parents, and he goes to work 3 days a week potting these basil plants. Chad is going to be directly helped by this legislation. By passing the Georgia ABLE Act, we open new horizons to people throughout Georgia just like Chad. They work to overcome their challenges, to improve themselves, to improve their station in life. And by enabling them to save for their own care, to pay for their own treatments, to pay for their own expenses, we are increasing the opportunity they have to live the American dream. I just want to thank again Representative Hawkins for carrying the bill. And I would like to ask for you to join with me by voting yes and giving our disabled individuals in our community and our state the opportunity to live that free life and the American dream. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 768 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 768. The ayes are 161, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. House Resolution 1363 will be postponed to the next legislative day. The clerk will read the caption to House Bill 923. House Bill 923.
House Bill 923 by Representative Quick of the 117th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-8-3 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to exemptions from sales and use taxes so as to provide an exemption for fire districts which have elected governing bodies and are supported by ad valorem taxes. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Quick to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. I bring you this afternoon House Bill 923, which changes only 2 lines of code in Title 48, but does 4 very major things. The bill would clarify the governmental status of independent fire districts which have been created by constitutional amendment and approved by Georgia voters. The bill would also recognize an exemption from sales and use tax for these independent fire districts. It would eliminate taxes on taxes. In other words, it would eliminate the payment of taxes where the funds utilized have been generated by the collection of ad valorem taxes. And it would equalize treatment between county and municipal fire departments and independent fire districts. Now, you should have on your desk from earlier this morning a little handout that I gave you in terms of a bill that was passed by this body, a resolution actually, in 1965. So this problem emerged, or this situation emerged really as a constituent service type issue for Chairman Benton through the West Jackson Fire District. And the West Jackson Fire District was created by constitutional amendment. It serves Brazelton and Houston and unincorporated West Jackson militia districts as set forth in the original bill. And so in terms of this particular situation being a constituent service issue, we thought, initially at least, that it was simply something that could be handled through the Department of Revenue. And then Chairman Benton let me know that this situation needed a lawyer. So I thank him for his work on trying to set me toward fixing this problem for the West Jackson Fire District and every other independent fire district in the state of Georgia that operates as an independent government. Also want to thank Chairman England, who was very helpful in putting this together and working on behalf of the West Jackson Fire District, because this fire district serves and renders automatic aid to the rest of Jackson County and mutual aid to Barrow County, which includes Chateau Alon and the distribution centers along I-85. And so if you take a look at the document that's on your desk, it shows that there's a territory for this independent fire district. There's an elected body. They hold their own elections, and they even pay for their own elections when they have them from the ad valorem taxes that they collect from the citizens in the district. They set their own millage rate, which is binding on Jackson County. So this bill, HB 923, would give those fire districts which have elected governing bodies and are supported in whole or in part by ad valorem taxes an exemption for sales and use taxes, just like counties, municipalities, and all of their departments. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I'll be happy to yield for questions if there are any.
You do not appear to have any questions.
I yield the well and ask for favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 923 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 923. The ayes are 159, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. What purpose does Chairman Houston rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the rules of the House be temporarily suspended so that a bill can be read for the first time and assigned to committee.
Chairman Houston has moved that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee. The clerk will read the caption.
Unnumbered House Bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 2-6-27 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to additional duties and powers of the State Soil and Water Conservation Commission.
On the lady's motion that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Appropriations. What purpose does Chairman Dempsey rise? State your motion.
I move that the rules be temporarily suspended so that a bill may be read for the first time and assigned to committee.
Chairman Dempsey has moved that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee. Clerk will read the caption.
Unnumbered House Bill by Representative Dempsey the 13th and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 6 and Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to services for the aging.
On the lady's motion that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? Chair hears none. It is so ordered. Appropriations. What purpose does Chairman Martin rise?
Mr. Speaker, I too move that the rules of the House be temporarily suspended so that the bill can be read and assigned to committee.
Chairman has moved that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee. Clerk will read the caption.
Unnumbered House Bill by Representative Martin the 49th to be titled an act to amend Chapter 30, Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions regarding municipal corporations.
On the gentleman's motion that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? Chair hears none. It is so ordered. Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight. What purpose does Chairman Morris rise?
To make a motion, Mr. Speaker.
State your motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the rules of the House be temporarily suspended so that a bill can be read for the first time and assigned to committee.
Clerk will read the caption.
Unnumbered House Bill by Representative Morris, the 156, to be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 4, Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to public assistance generally.
On the chairman's motion that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Health and Human Services. What purpose does Representative Brockway rise?
To make a motion, Mr. Speaker.
State your motion.
Move the House House Resolution 830 be moved from the Committee on Ways and Means to the Committee on Transportation. Both chairmen are in agreement.
Clerk will read the caption.
House Resolution 830 by Representative Brockway of the 102nd, proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to provide for the creation, purposes, administration, cooperation with local governments.
On the motion of the gentleman from Gwinnett County that House Bill 830, House Resolution 830, be withdrawn from the Ways and Means Committee and assigned to the Transportation Committee. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. We're going to start doing page photographs at the rostrum here momentarily. We're going on now to announcements. Chair recognizes Chairman Tankersley for an announcement.
Good afternoon. We have an intergovernmental coordination meeting in the morning at 9 a.m. in room 403. Please be on time. We only have one bill to consider. And while we're talking about local legislation, I just want to remind you that you do need to get your ads in, your newspapers if you're contemplating local legislation. And remember that Sunday starts the beginning of a week, and if your ad runs on a Sunday, it will be 7 days after that before your bill can be first read. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carl Rogers for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the House Higher Education Committee will meet at 4 o'clock in room 403. We'll take up House Bill 1072. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Richard Smith for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Insurance Committee will not meet tomorrow morning. Will not meet. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Appropriations Committee, Chairman England, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just wanted to announce we will have a full Appropriations Committee meeting tomorrow morning, room 341 here in the Capitol, 7:30. We'll have probably 2 or 3 measures on the agenda at that time. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Houston for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Appropriations Committee, Subcommittee on Economic Development will meet immediately upon adjournment in CLOB 514. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dempsey for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Appropriations Human Resources Subcommittee will meet immediately upon adjournment in 515 CLOB to take up a bill. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Cooper for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Health and Human Services will meet in 606 as soon as we can get there. We have somebody that's waiting to come behind us. So if the members of Health and Human Services will move as quickly as possible, we'll try to get you out. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to make an announcement. Our subcommittee on energy and Chairman Parsons' bid committee will meet in 403 immediately on adjournment to hear House Bill 1036. Also, the special subcommittee of the House Regulated Industry Committee will meet to hear House Bill 1001 an hour after adjournment or after the bid committee completes, whichever is later, in CLOB 506.
Chair recognizes Chairman Maxwell for an announcement.
And Regulated Industries will meet as quickly as we can get over to 506. We've got 4 bills on the agenda. It may be a few minutes in meetings today. Thank you very much. 506.
Chair recognizes Representative Duncan for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to invite everyone in the body to our legislative fellowship in the morning at 7:15 in Capitol Room 125, and Representative Dave Belton is going to deliver the devotional. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Willard for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Judiciary will meet at 3:15 in room 132.
Chair recognizes Representative Ballinger for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Ballinger Subcommittee of Juvenile Justice will meet this afternoon at 4 o'clock in 515 CLOB. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Coomer for an announcement.
Transportation Committee will meet in room 406 upon adjournment.
Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler for an announcement.
The Setzler Subcommittee of Non-Civil Judiciary will be meeting at 4 o'clock or upon adjournment of the Cooper, or upon adjournment of the Health Committee, whichever's earlier, 4 o'clock in room 606 of the LOB, taking up 2 bills. Again, upon adjournment of the full Health Committee.
Chair recognizes Chairman Tom Weldon for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Juvenile Justice Committee meeting scheduled for 1 o'clock has been, that we're not having it upon adjournment. That's resolved. So that's canceled for today. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Shaw for an announcement. No, my eyes are just...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow is Valdosta State University Day at the Capitol. They're going to have a breakfast and a coffee for everyone on the 4th floor in room 450 from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock. So come out and help celebrate Valdosta State Day.
Chair recognizes Chairman Alan Powell for an announcement.
Members of the Public Safety Homeland Security meeting will be backed up probably 45 minutes to an hour till transportation finishes in room 406, and then we'll meet immediately after they vacate the office. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Majority Leader of the House for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House stand in recess until 5 p.m., at which time we will stand adjourned until tomorrow morning, Wednesday, February the 24th, 2016, at 10 a.m.
The Majority Leader has moved that this House stand in recess until 5 o'clock p.m. today, at which time we would be adjourned until Wednesday, February 24 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. This House will be in recess until 5 o'clock p.m. and will then adjourn until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.